Atheist Nomads, episode 318. Don't put the Ephesus on the wrong Synod.
The podcast you're about to listen to includes cursing and talking about hoo-haws. Please be advised.
Welcome to another episode of Atheist Nomads. I am Dustin, and joining me is Lauren.
Hi, everybody. And yes, for the future soundboard, there is going to be a collective groan for when Dustin makes jokes that he thinks are hilarious.
Okay, so that one
no one's going to get.
That one actually started off with, don't put the Ephesus on the wrong Synod. Which, as a play on the don't put the emphasis on the wrong syllable.
Which I think was a joke from some plane movie back in the 2000s that like totally flopped.
Oh, it predates that.
But it had Mike Myers in it.
My dad was using that one in the 90s.
Really? Okay, yeah.
So at least it was a dad joke in the 90s.
Oh, yeah.
So it probably means it's from the 70s.
Yeah. Probably means it's from the 10s.
But yeah, so we will, this will all make more sense a little bit later, unless we want to just jump right on in.
Do it.
Okay, so we are bringing back Dustin Off the Degree. I know the plan was going to be...
The second dean.
We're going to split it off, and while I really liked the idea that I would have done, being down a co-host, I don't have time for two podcasts, so I'm just going to bring it back into the one.
This is on you, Erin.
Yeah,
which is okay because she never listens to the podcast.
She doesn't when she's on, at least.
Uh-oh.
That's the only one that's for sure on that one. Okay, so we're going to have to go back to 499 CE.
Party like it's 499.
449.
Oh, 449. I misheard that.
I might have missaid it.
That's not as much fun.
449 CE.
Party like it's 449.
With the Second Council of Ephesus.
Yes, and what is it, Ephesus?
Ephesus was a city in Asia Minor, modern-day Turkey.
Okay.
And Christendom decided to get together to have a council to resolve the issue of the nature of Jesus Christ.
Okay, sounds legit.
Yeah. So up to this point, there had already been heretics that had been driven out and creeds that had been created to kind of resolve, basically that Jesus had a physical flesh and bones body that was conceived in Mary's womb and birthed through her.
Ugh.
And also that
making dying for your sins rather meaningless if he didn't have a body.
And also making it very clear that Jesus was not just a man born through the normal natural means, adopted by God in the Roman sense of adoption, like how Julius Caesar adopted his good buddy and pupil, Augustus, to be his son and heir, despite no blood relation.
Nice fostering program.
Where you adopt adults that you want to take over for you.
Ooh, I could have fun with that.
So that was the Roman way. It was actually pretty common for men to adopt their son-in-laws if they didn't have any sons that were good enough to take over the family business.
So, nice loophole there.
Or the property. So if your daughters marry
Sorry, Dave. You need to move out of the basement and get a job.
Right.
Otherwise, Stan's going to get it.
So the Arians went with the idea that Jesus was just a man. Well, okay, so there's one version. Every imaginable combination was adopted by someone. So either Jesus was just a man, fathered by Joseph,
he was just a cool dude, right? Who had good ideas.
Well, you see, so when a man and a woman love each other very much, they make a baby. And in this version, they did that the normal way, where Joseph got Mary pregnant, and then she gave birth to a baby. That God thought was the best kid ever, so he became, as a young man, either at the baptism, when the Holy Spirit descended down upon him, adopted him, or if you go more like the early Pauline epistles version, like literally the day before he was crucified.
Oh, so he was just a dude, and then all of a sudden it was like, hey, you're the son of God. And he's like, what? Okay, I'm going to die for you guys.
Yep, basically.
That doesn't
make sense.
That's dumb. Sorry, Paul Episcopalians.
No, epistles are just the letters of the apostles.
Well, too bad you guys. That's a dumb idea.
So that's one version of it. Then there's the idea that God...
Wait, no. I'm still stuck on that one. If that were true, then all of Jesus' teachings were just bullshit.
Yeah.
And it has nothing to do with the fact that he died.
Well, he was already inspired by God. He was already kind of a prophet, but just... Actually, no,
that's
when Paul wrote that, there were no Gospels. Conceivably, Jesus was invented by Paul with no concept of him actually being anything before the day before he was crucified.
All of these years, all of this millennia, and Paul's been turning over in his grave going, oh, dudes, it was just a metaphor.
Quite possibly, yeah.
Jesus, the metaphor.
So then there's the version of it where God, in a very Zeus-like form, took physical form on the earth and found a teenage virgin and got her pregnant, creating a demigod.
I like how you say got her pregnant, like...
Okay.
He impregnated her.
Let's
he didn't
go with,
get her pregnant.
In proper Zeus style.
He raped
took
a girl.
Form and raped a teenage girl. Knocking her up with the rape baby that would save the world from human sins.
Canola baby.
Since rape obviously is not a sin.
Because it's rape seed. Agriculture joke.
Yeah. So that version was also
better
determined...
than getting fucked by a goose. Zeus, you're messed up.
As a goose, as a horse, as an eagle,
golden
as water.
As water.
Yeah.
He had style, at least.
Many. He had many styles. All of those different ways of looking at it had all been determined to be heretical.
Not hearsay.
Not hearsay. Heresy.
Heresy. I still can't say it.
So hearsay is a legal term.
Yes.
Heresy is a theological term. Hearsay is not admissible in court. Heresy will get you burned at the stake.
Okay. Even though your heresy makes more sense than what eventually they come up with?
Well, okay, maybe. So they basically ruled out. Oh, and then as they continued to work through councils and driving out heretics, they finally reached the point of, okay, so Jesus definitely has a divine nature and he definitely has a human nature, but they'd also figured out that it was heresy for him to have two completely distinctive natures, where he was basically
schizophrenic,
fully human and fully God. Basically, in other words, where he was a human being possessed by a god.
Okay.
That was determined to be heresy as well.
Okay.
So
okay, burn those guys at the stake and drive them out.
Yep. So they had to figure out, okay, so he's not fully God, fully human, but he's also fully God, fully human. So what does this mean? And so this is where the Second Council of Ephesus came in, where in 449, so it was called by the emperor, because by this point, the emperors in Constantinople were the ones that were really driving the church, because Rome was really weak. We're into the 5th century. Rome was crumbling.
Aww.
Old Rome was crumbling. New Rome was where it was all at. But yet the Pope was still, the Pope in Rome, the Bishop of Rome, was still the most preeminent leader in the church. He did not attend the Council of Ephesus. He sent 4 bishops to represent him and carry a letter. One of those representatives died on the way, and the letter was never read before the council because nobody wanted it to be read. They only wanted people that were actually there to speak.
Ooh.
Yeah.
I think I've heard of some city council meetings that have gone like that.
Uh-huh. So what?
It's a good way to not hear dissenting opinions. La, 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 I can't hear you. La, la, la.
So they determined that Jesus was fully God and also fully man, because at the moment of conception, those two natures merged into one.
Zygotes.
Which would actually be the most logical way of making sense of the crazy bullshit they were trying to
demigod?
Figure out. Not demigod, because not Zeus.
But demigods, the term demigod exists outside of that.
It's still basic.
It's a man with the power of a god.
really it would be that more like Jesus as God goes into Mary and acquires a human body, and those two spirits get fused into one.
Total yin yang.
Kind of a little more like, but
separate.
But actually, no, not separate. Fused.
Fused. Oh, okay. So like Dragon Ball Z.
I guess.
Mm-hmm. Just nod.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. The other, and so.
Sorry. Now I've got the image of a little Jesus embryo doing the fusion dance with the God, and it's just funny. It's funny in my mind. It's not funny in your mind. It might be funny for some of our listeners.
Okay. So then this made a lot of people really not happy, and bishops who opposed it were getting thrown out and replaced, and it was causing kind of some chaos.
And this is the version that the Constantinople emperor guy was like, this is it. This is how we're going to do it.
Yep. And then he died.
Oh, oops.
Yep.
Not according to plan.
So then we get Emperor Marcian, who calls a new council because the Pope wanted a new council, as well as some of the other bishops who did not agree with this chimera god.
Okay.
And so...
That sounds so much cooler.
So he calls a new council, and he wants it closer to Constantinople, and it took place from 8 October to 1 November 451 in Chalcedon, also in Asia Minor, very close to Constantinople, so that way he could monitor it more closely, a little closer to real time than if it was a little further out, and he could intervene if he needed to, like if they decided the wrong way, like because he called the council to overturn the Second Council of Ephesus.
Okay. So is this the third council of Ephesus?
No, this was the Council of Chalcedon.
Oh, yeah, okay.
So then...
Chalcedony. Rock
there
joke.
were a number of bishops who refused to attend because you can't call a council to overturn a council.
Yeah, you can. Demanding a revote.
Well...
but just with the people that you want.
You can when you're the emperor.
Yeah, okay.
Some of these bishops did not agree with that, and so they did not attend. And the meeting repudiated the determinations of the Second Council of Ephesus.
What?
Repudiated. Rejected.
Okay, just use the word rejected.
Repudiated's a perfectly good word.
Except for nobody's ever heard that word.
Except lots of people have heard that word.
Please write in if you've never heard that word. Goddamn.
It is a perfectly good word.
I'm sure it is. I'm sure it's a great Scrabble big score, but...
No, it'd be a pretty low score on Scrabble.
Need more J's and Z's. Sorry.
So anyway, and what they determined was that Jesus was fully God and fully man, with a fully divine nature and a fully human nature contained wholly within his human body.
Okay.
But it wasn't heresy because they determined it wasn't heresy.
Because I was going to say, because it wasn't that determined to be heresy earlier.
Yeah.
Weren't people killed and driven out of the country for having that exact same thought?
Yep. Well, nuanced. And
oh my God.
And when,
yeah, okay.
When you add words like, they've got a really good one. It's consubstantial.
Nah, that's still a pretty low score.
So he was
Scrabble
consubstantial with the Father. So sharing the same substance, and also consubstantial with humanity, sharing the same substance with humans. And those two natures were unified within him. So not a created being, not a purely divine being, but purely human and purely God, which is entirely a contradiction of terms.
Yep.
So some bishops rejected this, most notably the Patriarch of Alexandria, who is the only other leader anywhere in Christendom that uses the title Pope.
Oh.
So the Pope in Rome said, yes, we are going with this bizarre contradictory stance. And the Pope in Alexandria said, fuck you. Screw you guys, I'm going home.
That's awesome.
And he took a bunch of bishops with him and formed the Oriental Orthodox churches.
Perfect. previous lessons are starting to commingle with this current lesson.
Now, what's really funny here is Oriental just means Eastern.
Right. So it became the Eastern Orthodox Church.
But the Eastern Orthodox Church is centered around the Patriarch of Constantinople, whereas the Oriental Orthodox Church is centered around the Patriarch of Alexandria.
Oh, so again, nuance. What happened to the Oriental then?
That is the Oriental...
It still is?
Yeah. The Oriental Orthodox churches are a collection of modern Christian churches that are still in communion with each other, and they are not in communion with any other Christians.
Okay.
So to most Americans, the major divisions are Protestants, Catholics, and Eastern Orthodox. When if you really look at it from the big picture, the major divisions are Oriental Orthodox, Eastern Orthodox, and Catholic. And the Protestants are just a blip on the radar.
They're all wrong.
They're new.
They're new. Okay, yeah.
The Protestant Reformation was 500 years ago. The Oriental Orthodox Church is split off from the rest of Christianity more than 1,500 years ago.
Okay.
And the Eastern Orthodox Church split off from Catholicism 1,000 years ago.
Wow. Okay. Yeah.
Protestantism is very new.
Yeah.
Your little American church, like, say, the Adventists that are only 150 years old, oh, you guys are just young bucks. You're just starting out.
You know nothing.
So the modern Oriental Orthodox churches they still hold to Miaphysite Christology, which is the term for the two natures being together fused into one.
Christology?
Christology is the study of Christ, or the doctrine of Christ.
Oh, okay. I was thinking crystals? Where does that come in?
They have 60 to 70 million members worldwide. Compare that to, say, the Baptist Church at about 30 million, Anglican Church at around 50 or 60 million, Adventist Church at 20 million, Mormon Church at 10 million or 15 million. It's pretty big.
Yeah.
They include the Coptic Church, which is full name of it is the Coptic Orthodox Church of Alexandria. When we talk about Christians in Egypt, that's who we're talking about.
Oh, okay.
Those are the Coptic Christians.
Oh, okay. That sounds, yeah.
And the patriarch there or pope there is the head of the Coptic Orthodox Church of Alexandria and the head of the Oriental Orthodox Communion of Churches.
Who is that now? Do you know his name? Seems like that should be, important.
He is Pope Tawateros II.
That's really fun to say. Tawateros? I like it. Okay, anyway.
And also the Syriac Orthodox Church of Antioch.
Monty Python reference.
No, but Monty Python does go to Antioch.
Yes.
The Armenian
No, they go to Anthrax. They throw the Holy Hand grenade of Antioch.
Okay. Sorry. Yeah, so the Syriac Orthodox Church of Antioch, the Armenian Apostolic Church,
okay,
the Ethiopian Orthodox Tehawedo Church.
Okay.
When you talk about Ethiopian Christians, that's who you're talking about.
So when they talk about these Christians, these aren't Protestants who went on missions and then started their own church in some country. These are really old, proto-modern Catholic churches. Not
proto-modern Catholic. No, these are just Christian churches that have been around. Like the Coptic Church, there were probably Christians in Alexandria before Rome.
Cool.
I'd almost guarantee there were Christians in Alexandria before Rome. There were Christians in Ethiopia about the same time as Rome, definitely before France or Spain.
That's crazy to think about. I mean, that timeline is jumbled. At least, to me.
Yeah. Right. You don't think of Egypt as having had Christians 1,900 years ago?
No, we think of them as having been, modern Christians going over there. And yeah. Interesting.
And these churches all claim to have been founded by one of Jesus's 12 apostles.
Well, I mean, you got 12 chances.
Right. And in some cases, they're just making it up. But
Well, they're all making it up.
Well, to a certain extent,
Jeez.
yes. But yeah, so they all date themselves to very, very, very old. There's also the Eritrean Orthodox Tehoedo Church and the Malanakara
I love these names.
Orthodox Syrian Church. They consider themselves to be one, holy, Catholic, and apostolic. The true Christian Church.
Everybody claims that one.
Yep. But they're the real true ones because they're right. They believe to be founded by Jesus Christ in his Great Commission and view their bishops as the successors to Christ's apostles. Those are all claims made by the Church of Constantinople and the Church of Rome.
Of course. Nobody's going to say, yeah, we're the fake ones, but we're more fun.
Yeah, the Unitarians kind of do.
Yeah, they kind of
do. Most parts of the Oriental Orthodox churches are part of the World Council of Churches. And they have the unique position of having multiple ways of doing their services. They have the Western-influenced Armenian Rite, the West Syrian Rite for the two Syriac churches, and they also have the Alexandrian Rite, which is followed by the Coptics, Ethiopians, and
what is this?
Eritreans. The ways of doing the Eucharist, the communion service and church service.
Oh, okay. Wait, I thought Eucharists were letters.
No, those are epistles.
Dang it! Okay, wrong emphasis.
You got the wrong Ephesus.
Yeah. God.
Yeah. So, and then out of the old pentarchy, the 5 patriarchs that were created by Emperor Justinian, Alexandria is one of the 5.
Okay.
That was Rome, Constantinople, Antioch, Jerusalem, and Alexandria.
Okay. Alexandria sounds like a cool place.
It's now one of the largest suburbs of Cairo.
Oh.
Despite being a very, 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 very old city. Like,
wait, was that was the one famous for the library, right?
Yeah.
Not the gardens.
The Library of Alexandria.
Yeah.
The gardens were Babylon.
Oh, okay. Well, they should totally recreate that library.
Mm-hmm. Except it's in Egypt.
Well, they don't have to physically actually recreate. Just make a big building, make it cool looking, and give everybody tablets that are connected to the internet.
Okay.
There you go. Some of human knowledge in your hand.
All right, so
at Alexandria. That would be such a good tourist spot.
It would. Except it's in Egypt, which is not the most stable country at the moment. So yeah, the
nobody is.
Well, actually, I think right now they actually are relatively stable since the military's back in control. But that's neither here nor there. We are talking about very old.
Technically.
Well, not now. Okay, it is here and there, but not now. Okay.
Who's on first?
All right. I think that wraps this one up. So now we've covered all of the major different branches of Christianity. And if you thought Mormonism was a major branch of Christianity, you were wrong. They aren't. They're just a blip on Protestantism.
Which is just a blip on everything else.
Which is just a tumorous growth off the Pope's ass.
Ew. I did not need that visualization.
Sorry. All right, let's take a break and talk about something interesting Lauren came across and then a little bit of news. So, Lauren, you were talking to me last week about something you came across about how to talk to young men.
Yeah, it was an article was written by a woman talking about how young men are being radicalized. And it was an interesting take on men's rights activists and why white supremacy and all that, why that's exploded. And as much as I love political correctness, that's basically to blame. So as much as it's kind of backwards. So you're a young man, 14, 15 years old, playing a game, and you say the R word to one of the other gamers. Well, you get criticized, you get yelled at, you say that's not cool, don't ever say that word, and you yourself feel embarrassed and ashamed for having said it. Like, I get it, but at the same time, it was just an emotional outburst. Why are you being so rough on me? Why are you being so serious? It's just a word. And that defense mechanism makes it so that the next time somebody attacks you, your defenses grow even more. Until basically we have this entire subculture of young men who are so sick and tired of being told that they are sexist, racist, homophobic, juvenile delinquents, that they feel like the only way that they can counter that is to find others who feel the same, YouTube,
4chan, 8chan.
And commiserate, and eventually those turn into mobs of people who are angry because society is telling them to get with the program, and they're maybe if it was kindly addressed at the very beginning, it could have been prevented, but no. We have people on the far left progressive side who are calling these people out and calling them monsters, who, men are trash, they need to die, don't trust anybody, that stuff. And I mean, if you're a 14-year-old boy, how are you going to feel about that? Or when you have all of these emotions and physical desires that are conflicting with your logical mind, and everybody in the world is telling you you're going to rape somebody, you are going to kill somebody, and you are one video game away from killing everybody at your school, or tearing apart animals in the park or something. I mean, I get it. So with this,
the only thing I would criticize out of all of that is I think that would also apply to most men in their 20s.
It applies to most men in general.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
We're at a point now where if you're over the age of 40, you probably just don't care.
Yeah.
And it's the people under that who have grown up with the PC culture who have either been the victim of or still feel like they are, subhuman in some way, when in fact you're just a person with feelings, and you don't want to be mean, you don't want to be angry, but people are kind of forcing you hands when they keep calling you trash. And that's the nice way of putting it. So the point that this article was getting was that if you can intervene at the very beginning, so you got a young man who says, well, that's retarded. And somebody, instead of saying, oh God, you're such trash for saying that, how dare you? Nobody says that. You're an awful person. So instead, you gently reprimand. You say, I'm sorry, that's offensive. I know people who are disabled who really wouldn't appreciate that. It's okay, but I wouldn't go around repeating that. If you approach it from that angle, then you're giving that kid a chance to either apologize and learn the lesson, or just kind of shut up without having to immediately get defensive.
Yeah. It's
kind of like the argument that we come across in every aspect of our culture now, atheism especially. If you agree with somebody 99% of the time, don't start a war over the 1% that you disagree on. That's not camaraderie.
Right.
That's awful and divisive.
As much as we support and advocate for trans rights, calling someone a TERF is not helping.
No, calling other people names, telling them that they're bad, that their feelings are evil, doesn't help. It doesn't. In fact, that is creating these people who are so angry and so scared that they're next, that they lash out and hurt other people first.
Well, okay, for an example, this would have been back probably 2011, shortly before starting the podcast. I was actively trying to be less of an asshole and trying to be less sexist. And so I started reading some...
So what did you go? You went on the internet.
Blogs. Yeah.
No, don't. No, but yeah.
Figured, okay, I want to be less of a sexist asshole, so I'm going to read some feminist blogs. And after a few months and Elevator Gate, and then a few more months after that, they started getting aggressive enough in some of the blog posts that I was starting to come to the conclusion that the only way to be a good man was to castrate yourself.
Yeah.
At which point I was like, oh, okay, this is not healthy. This is not going to go anywhere good. And I unsubscribed. Stopped reading those blogs.
You shut yourself out of it.
I shut myself out of it knowing that that was not going to end anywhere good.
And it didn't. It doesn't. It all comes down to empathy and giving people a second chance. Now, that was Elevator Gate, and the Me Too movement is a result of decades of being told that life is one way and you have to just deal with it. So that feminist blog backlash that you saw was the result of women finding a voice that they can rant on. It was not targeted to trying to convince guys to act a certain way. It was just them venting their frustration and saying hurtful things that didn't help.
The conclusion I came to from that was that I was not their audience, not that feminists were bad. Which
you are lucky.
Yeah.
Because that could have easily gone the other way.
And some of the posts that were kind of pushing me that direction were talking about, and Elevator Gate would be an example of talking about situations where you go to some atheist event and these women were getting hit on by men at the event, and describe the entire story, and then at the end say, guys, don't do that. Don't do what?
Yeah, which part of that story is the crossing the line?
Because you can read through the story and find, okay, this could be the don't do that. This could be the don't do that. And you can keep on going, and there's 5 or 6 different things that could be the don't do that. Which one was the problem?
So could you please go back and annotate and read exactly which ones you mean? Yeah. You have to educate, not reprimand, because reprimanding just creates defense, and defense creates offense. Yeah. So yeah, this happens a lot in echo chambers where you have people who are just like vitriol with anger, and you don't agree with what they're saying about, maybe, for example, punching Nazis. We had that discussion last year.
Yeah, a few years ago.
You didn't feel like that was helpful.
Mm-hmm.
So you have that on one side, and then you have the people who are like, well, I don't completely agree with that, but you're my friend, so I'm not going to reprimand you for it either. They're not really helping, because they're giving that person an audience, which is, that's all that people want. They just want people to tell them that they're brilliant. And then you've got the people who actively try to fight that. And that's how we end up with a hugely divisive country, where the people in the middle are kind of like, well, I kind of agree with you and I kind of agree with you, but we have to be civil to each other, so I'm just not going to get into it.
And as a general rule of thumb, the person who responds is the asshole.
Right. It's not the first person who hits, it's the person who hits back. Ugh.
It sucks, but that's just how it is.
Every kid who's been bullied understands that concept.
I thoroughly understand that. Heck, I even understand it from family events and gatherings where it's not the person who says something they shouldn't. It's when you get offended. You're the one that's in the wrong.
Yep. Yeah. I understand that can we all just get along is not going to happen. But I do think that people need to be better at calling out people with extreme views and saying, I agree with some of what you're saying, but you're making leaps in logic that I just can't stand by. And it doesn't have to ruin your friendships or your family relations. You just have to say, I don't respect that point of view.
Yeah.
And let them know that you are not their audience. And either they'll get hit in the ego and will calm down, or they will cut you out of their lives, or somewhere in between. I have friends that I've unfollowed because they're just a little too angry.
Mm-hmm.
And even though they're angry about stuff that I am also angry about, calling for violence or using that same language as the people who are calling for violence doesn't help. It just makes things worse. And I think we pretty much beat that.
Yep.
Beat that like a dead horse? Beat that to a dead horse?
We need to stop beating the dead horse.
Beat the horse. Stop beating horses.
The dead horse.
Oh, yeah. Well, definitely. Well, no, definitely don't beat the live horses.
But it's beating the dead horse. I think the analogy is from beating a horse until it's dead and then continuing to beat it even after it's dead. I don't think it's saying don't poke a dead horse with a stick.
Oh, okay. Good, because I poke dead things with sticks all the time.
Donald Trump tweeted, "Thank you to Wayne Allen Root for the very nice words. President Trump is the greatest president for Jews and for Israel in the history of the world. Not just America. He is the best president for Israel in the history of the world. And the Jewish people in Israel love him. Like he's the king of Israel. They love him like he is the second coming of God. But American Jews don't know him or like him. They don't even know what they're doing or saying anymore. It makes no sense, but that's okay. He keeps doing what he's doing. He's good for all Jews, blacks, gays, everyone. And importantly, he's just good for anyone in America who wants a job." Wow.
That sounds like Trump talking.
Yeah.
That doesn't sound like he's quoting anybody. That sounds like he's quoting himself.
Well, Wayne Allen Root really likes Donald Trump.
Yeah, but they don't talk the same. I'm sure. That was Trump all over it. Repeating, meandering, really good for gays, blacks, and everyone.
Yeah.
And I don't...
He's the second coming of God.
Wow. Yeah, that sounds exactly like something Trump would say about himself. Like a little puppet that he talks to himself with. You're the greatest! Oh, thanks. But, wow, that just... There's so much to unpack there that's not even worth unpacking.
Right. So he's...
I don't know what's going on higher up in the administration in regards to Israel.
It's weird. Well, actually, we do know exactly what's going on.
Well, I don't.
You do? Okay, you don't. Mike Pence is a rabid evangelical who wants the
world to end.
Second coming of Jesus Christ, his one and only Lord and Savior. To do that, in his viewpoint, requires the Dome of the Rock to be torn down and the temple to be rebuilt and a red heifer to be sacrificed on the altar that will be built upon the rock that is at the middle of the Dome of the Rock, which is the third most holy place in Islam.
Which temple? The Jewish temple?
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry, people saying temple, that's a very generic term.
The temple.
But the temple,
Jerusalem.
the Jewish temple. So he wants to bolster the Jewish community, really make it as Jewy as possible so that they will take over the Dome of the Rock completely and build a temple and sacrifice a
red
cow?
heifer.
It's a cow, right?
Yep.
Because Jews do that.
They used to.
So he's got a couple hurdles there.
So Jews haven't since the temple was torn down. And so if they rebuild the temple, then Jews can start sacrificing cows on the altar.
I just don't see him doing that these days.
Well, especially considering that...
Wait, is this like the eating Jesus at church thing where if they go up there and break a cracker over the temple and say this is the flesh of a cow, of a red heifer, it counts? Like a little gingerbread cow?
No.
Oh, okay.
No.
That's hilarious.
This is literally wanting to tear down the third most holy site in Islam to rebuild the most holy site in Judaism.
Okay. Not going to happen.
World War III.
Yeah. Which fits perfectly with what he wants.
Yep.
World War III, end of the war.
Yep.
World. Jesus coming.
If you want to see Saudi Arabia and Iran get along, start making moves towards tearing down the Dome of the Rock, and they will get along and try and kill you.
Okay.
Quickly. And would not have any
with the guns we sold them.
With the guns we sold them and sending terrorists out to try to kill everyone they can. Because, that would end very, very poorly. And I don't think there'd be any people in the Islamic world that would be saying that would not be jihad.
Yeah. So I want to know what the people of Israel actually think about Donald Trump.
He's polling relatively well in Israel, but very poorly among American Jews.
Because he's a dick.
He's a dick. He's a racist asshole. And he's trying to help bring about Christian theocracy, which is really bad for Jews in America.
Yep. I also think he's doing all that without actually thinking he's doing that.
Right, because he's just being awesome.
Yeah. Like, the second coming of God.
Eating Big Macs and being awesome is Donald Trump.
Sharing Big Macs.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
Because that's how awesome he is. He shares Big Macs.
Yeah.
I just love how he quotes somebody else, and it's totally his voice.
Yeah.
Anybody who knows anything about writing styles know that was Trump just writing that.
I could also totally believe that was Wayne Allen Root.
Yeah?
Yeah. But it also demonstrates that Trump is not that great at tweets, because you really shouldn't be doing 3-part tweets.
Oh, yeah. The whole point of Twitter, is brevity, and Trump sucks at that.
Yeah.
He rambles. We ramble, but he rambles as a president, and that's just
Well, Twitter is not a place for rambling. We pay for disk space on a media host to put our rambling on.
Oh, yeah.
There's a difference there.
Speaking of which, if you want to support us, please go to Patreon or go to our website.
Or Podfan. And you can find all the details at atheistnomads.com/donate.
We also accept cash and checks. We will not accept your firstborn. We're done with that.
We already have our own.
Yep.
So in St. Louis County, they just elected a new county commissioner.
St. Louis
County in Missouri.
Of St. Louis. Okay, yeah.
So the picture is quite lovely. She's getting sworn in, and she's raising her right hand, and her left hand is down on a book that her 5 and 7-year-old children are holding.
Oh my God, it's so cute, guys.
And what is the book that she has her hand on? Dr. Seuss's Oh, the Places You Will Go.
I'm not crying, you're crying. God, that's so sweet.
Not the Bible.
You don't, because it does.
Oh, the Places You Will Go.
It just has to be a book, right? It doesn't even have to be a book, but people choose.
Books are because it was too Catholic to be bringing out relics from the church to put your hand on while you swear an oath on the relic, because the relic will bring upon the curses of whoever the relic is of.
Oh, right.
So you put your hand on a fragment of St. Andrew's right femur and swear an oath, and then St. Andrew will punish you if you break the oath. And so the more Protestant way was to put your hand on the Bible.
Swearing upon Dr. Seuss.
It's just awesome.
That's just awesome.
But in St. Louis Post-Dispatch, they compared her to what we normally see in politics now, as this is the good.
Yes.
Steve King is the bad. The ultimate example of the bad.
Oh, okay. Who's Steve King?
He is the Republican in Congress that is so racist to have been stripped of all of his committee assignments. Yeah. He's the one that said...
And still gets elected?
Yeah.
Jesus.
He's the one that recently said that if it wasn't for rape and incest, nobody would be alive.
Right. That's probably true, but that doesn't make it okay in modern day.
Right. And also isn't grounds for banning abortion.
Yeah, I just love the picture of her with her little family.
Yeah. The Mormon Church doesn't like people trying to find loopholes.
Which is just funny because they are so good at it.
Oh, yeah. So they have taken to their church youth magazine, since most churches do have magazines for their youth.
Gotta be hip.
And it is considered, this magazine, to be official church doctrinal communication. And so they included some guidance in it to make sure that people know that modern innovations are not ways to get around the church's health code. So those fancy coffees are still coffee, and you can't have coffee. And you shouldn't buy anything in a coffee shop because it probably has coffee.
Okay.
And no vaping because nicotine is still nicotine. And even though it's not a cigarette and it might taste good, don't do it.
I can see where they're going with this. Hey, kids, it's not cool to be...
And no pot cookies or candies. And yeah.
That just sounds like an old person typing up, hey, hey, kiddos, you know what's really cool? Jesus.
Now, this is despite the fact that they eased up on the rules a few years ago when they decided that caffeinated soft drinks are okay.
Only because Romney.
Probably.
That was the only reason they said that, is because Romney could not give up Pepsi. And he was running for freaking president, and they had to back him.
The other one they included in this guidance was green tea is also bad and forbidden, because even though it's not black tea, it is still tea, and it's made from the same leaves. It's just a difference in the aging process.
It's still caffeine, people.
The caffeine's not bad. It's the fact that it's tea that is bad.
Ah.
Tea and coffee are bad. Caffeine is not bad.
Okay, so caffeinated sodas and energy drinks.
So your regular Coca-Cola is perfectly fine according to the Mormon Health Code.
As of, 10 years ago, 12 years ago, whatever that was.
But a cup of coffee or a green tea is totally wrong.
Oh, man. Sure. I'm sure Rexburg is in full agreement there. I don't see Dutch Bros doing real well in Rexburg.
Well, at least last time I was spent any time in Rexburg, it was the best cup of coffee in town was at McDonald's.
Yeah, and supposedly the best drink is Applebee's. If you want stomach flu. Food poisoning.
Yeah.
God, it's so Mormon there.
Oh, yeah. Fayetteville, Kentucky figured out an interesting way to satisfy their state's new "In God We Trust in Schools" rule by framing dollar bills.
Framing and enlarging, right?
Yeah.
There's a poster you can download. So if you have to have it, okay, we'll have it. It's on the dollar. There we go. Have kids pledging themselves to the dollar. That's really what America is all about.
And this was actually the district superintendent who sent out these framed copies of a $1 bill that has the tiny, tiny letters that say, "In God We Trust," right above the 1.
Yep.
Yeah. It meets the rules.
The rule only states that it has to be
displayed.
You can even have a whole poster saying this is a terrible idea. In God we trust should not be the motto.
Yep. Which American Atheist is making freely available.
E pluribus unum.
So this is getting mixed reviews.
People don't like loopholes.
No. Some parents are absolutely loving it. The sponsor of the bill hates it.
Of course he does. Slap in the face.
Yeah. He told the Associated Press that he's disappointed to see schools spending time searching for silly loopholes.
It didn't take that much time, honestly.
No.
People had this prepped for years.
Or I wouldn't be surprised if in this case, the superintendent was thinking, man, how are we going to comply with this without being assholes to our students? And went to a coffee shop and pulled out some money and looked at the bill. It was like, there it is.
Yep. Picture of a quarter would work as well.
Yeah.
I just like, hail to the almighty dollar.
Ah, man. And from up north, Matt Shae is back in the news. This is the Washington State representative from the Spokane area. Who?
Oh, no.
Oh, yeah.
Not Spokane.
Yep. So he's already well known for distributing white supremacist literature, advocating for violence against Muslims, gays, and anybody else he considers to be enemies of the United States.
I believe it was referred to as a manifesto.
Well, the manifesto to how to kill all men who are not Christians.
Yeah.
Yeah,
he's
just the men.
Up. Oh, well, okay, thanks.
Yeah. Well, The Guardian got a hold of some emails of his about his contact with Team Rugged.
Team Rugged.
Rugged offers training on biblical warfare to young Christian men.
They're going to come after you with spears and rocks?
Oh, no. They train you on how to use guns and knives on enemies of the church.
Oh, that kind of, not historical biblical, but...
No.
That's terrifying.
Yes. Supposedly Shae made some videos for the group, and they were in talks for a while about how they provide patriotic and biblical training on war for young men. And, quote, everything about it is both politically incorrect and what would be considered shocking truth to most modern Christians.
See, I tell you, it's that political correctness thing, the backlash against that. As a politically correct person, I'm dismayed by, but this is just dangerous.
And the rest of it basically sounded like Al-Qaeda or ISIS.
Terrorists?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what they are. They're anti-government terrorists.
A member of the Washington State House of Representatives was in communications with the head of a Christian terrorist organization running terrorist training camps for disaffected young Christian fundamentalist men.
And he'll get reelected.
Yep.
Because Spokane.
Yep.
I'm sorry if we have any listeners in Spokane, but oh man, it's just one of those cities that it could be good. It could be a cool place.
It used to be once upon a time,
and now it's just this is what you're famous for. Sucks.
Yep. All right. Well, that wraps it up for this week.
Holy crap! Did we actually make it? Yeah.
Next week we will be late. The episode probably won't be out till Tuesday evening, maybe even Wednesday. We have a busy week, and we'll be spending an extended weekend over the Labor Day weekend at the cabin. And we're
going to the mountain,
and I will most likely not be getting our interview completed before then. I am saving one news story for that one because it is relevant to the interview, which is awesome.
Giddy.
I am a little bit giddy.
As he pushes his glasses up the bridge of his nose.
And we don't have any feedback, I don't think. If I'm missing any, I will catch it in 2 weeks. We do not have
I believe that there was an internal memo, something about ice cream that you missed.
Lauren, thank you.
Thank you.
And listeners, remember, not all those who wander are lost. Thank you for listening to another episode of Atheist Nomads. You can find show notes and contact information at atheistnomads.com. Follow us on Twitter at Atheist Nomads, and like us on Facebook at facebook.com/atheistnomads. Please subscribe to the show in iTunes, Stitcher, or your podcatcher of choice, and while you're there, feel free to leave us a review. Theme music is courtesy of Sturdy Fred. Until next time, this has been the Atheist Nomads.